This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Upgrade your business with Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning fewer carts going abandoned and more sales going cha-ching. So if you're into growing your business, get a commerce platform that's ready to sell wherever your customers are. Visit shopify.com to upgrade your selling today.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Divisional Playoff Weekend in the NFL as the Philadelphia Eagles are set to take on the Los Angeles Rams on Sunday afternoon at 3 p.m. in what could be a snow globe at Lincoln Financial Field. I'm your host, LJ Harrell, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Connor Donald. Connor, what's up, bud?
I mean, I'm excited. I'm ready for some more football. I mean, I guess, wildcard weekend was what we expected it to be. But here we go, the divisional round. Man, I can't wait. More football. And hopefully this isn't, the last of our streams for the year because we want to keep streaming. We want to go right to the Super Bowl.
It would be nice to make it to the Super Bowl when, obviously, if the Eagles can defeat the Rams on Sunday, they go to the NFC Championship game against either the Lions or the Commanders, who defeated the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last week. But before we jump into the game, as always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LJHarrell54. And follow the Eagles Pinpool Network on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you get your podcast at Eagles Pinpool Network. Be sure to like, subscribe, and rate our show. So, Connor, the Eagles have a rematch this week with the Rams. The Rams, since the Eagles defeated them 37-20, have only lost one game, if I'm not mistaken. The Eagles, obviously, since their bye week, have only lost one game, and that was without with Jalen Hurts only playing 12 snaps, and Kenny Pickett getting the majority of the snaps in that game, and it took a last-second touchdown by Jaden Daniels for Washington to win that game, by the way. So, yeah, the Eagles are coming in, while they might not be putting up the gaudy numbers, they're winning games. The one thing Jalen Hurts said this week, which I really appreciate, and one thing I can say, he's like, each game's going to look different for him. The only thing that matters is getting a win. If he's got to throw the ball for 300 yards, he can do that. If he's throw the ball for 100 yards and they run for 250 yards, that'll happen. He doesn't care what his numbers look like, and I actually appreciate that. Like, I get it. Quarterbacks, I mean, everybody wants the gaudy, let's throw for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns. But who the hell cares? The only thing that matters is getting the victory, especially in the playoffs. It doesn't matter how it happens. It doesn't matter who's the star. Just go out there, get a victory, move on to the next round. It's survive and advance. And I think Jalen Hurts epitomizes that to the T. He doesn't give a crap about stats. He just wants to get a victory. He just wants to get the win. And if you're looking at his numbers, dude, all he does is win. Him and Sirianni together, all they do is win. So I don't really give a crap how they win the game this week. I don't care if it's kicking 7 field goals. I don't care if it's Jalen Hurts throwing the ball for 400 yards. I don't care if it's Saquon Barkley going for 250. Whatever is meant for this week's game, or however it is meant for this week's game to get a victory, that's how the Eagles need to do it.
Yeah, I mean, we've come on this show a few times in the past little while, and we've said all Jalen Hurts does is win. And we've had people in our comments call us homers. We've had people on our Twitter call us homers. But when did winning not matter in the NFL? Like, the point is, it's all about winning. There's only one team out of 32 every single season. I said it last week, that can win this Super Bowl. If all you do is win, you can be mediocre. All you do is win and be the Pittsburgh Steelers, get to the playoffs, get destroyed in the first round of the playoffs. You can be mediocre. If you can win and go somewhere like we've seen the Philadelphia Eagles do, like we've seen Jalen Hurts do, that's what we want to see. And even Tony Dungy said it today. I saw the tweet. I saw the comment. He said, everybody might not be happy about it, but until the Rams defense proves they can stop our running game, I don't know that they need to throw the ball, because every national media outlet is obsessed with, can Jalen Hurts win with his arm? Again and again, we've said, like, what, 90% of this year, he hasn't had to win with his arm. 95% of this year, he hasn't had to win with his arm. because they have absolutely dominated. They built this team around the capabilities of this offensive line, Jeff Stoutland and Saquon Barkley. They kind of built the capabilities around Jalen Hurts being able to throw the ball with Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, but that's been 3 years that they've had this Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, and Devontae Smith. It is all about just winning how you have to win. And it is funny. I find it extremely funny. If you've turned on ESPN, if you turned on FS1, they are obsessing over the weather in the Rams game, or the Bills and the Ravens game. But when they talk about the Eagles game, they talk about throwing, and they briefly mention in a brush by, there is a chance of snow, and it's going to be cold.
And not just a little bit of snow, by the way. There's a chance for like 5 inches of snow, which could be reminiscent of the Snow Bowl, what was that, 12, 13 years ago. I just looked it up because I didn't know off the top of my head. Jalen Hurts is 46-20 as the starter, has led the Eagles to the playoffs every year that he has been the primary starter. So the guy that led the league in passing, where's he at right now? He's home. That's Joe Burrow. He's sitting at home. Who the hell cares? The guy that there's been a lot of talk, and I may have said it a couple of years ago, like that running backs can't lead a team to a Super Bowl. Well, that's being tested this year with Saquon Barkley, with Derrick Henry. Like the 2 top free agent signings last year are leading their teams into the divisional round. And you'd have to think that Saquon Barkley is probably the front runner for Offensive Player of the Year. He's not going to win MVP because it's a quarterback award. But again, all the stats in the world that the Cincinnati Bengals offense has, and a lot of people are going to be, well, their defense stinks. Well, guess what? The Eagles had the 30th ranked defense last year. What did Jalen Hurts do? He led them to the playoffs. I know they lost 6 of their last 7 or whatever it was, and the second half of the season wasn't that great. But guess what? Jalen Hurts still went to the playoffs. So who the heck, Jamar Chase, the Triple Crown winner, he's at home right now. Joe Burrow, the guy that led all the league in passing, he's sitting at home right now. All the just because you're able to pass the football all over the yard, that doesn't guarantee you a playoff spot. The Baltimore Ravens are, while Lamar Jackson has close to damn near 40 touchdowns, because Lamar Jackson, I got into an argument with a friend when Lamar got drafted. I said Lamar was going to be really good in the NFL, and he was like, I was nuts. Well, Lamar's really good in the NFL. He's about to be a 3-time MVP. But what you have close to a 2,000-yard rusher in Derrick Henry. Lamar rushes for 800 yards. You don't have to throw the football all over the yard, all over the football field to win games. Jaden Daniels over 800 yards rushing as a quarterback. Just because Jalen isn't going out there and working or playing to the narrative that he's got to go out there and sling it, or it doesn't seem like he can, that doesn't mean anything. Everybody was talking all this crap after the Carolina game. He went out against the Steelers, and what did he do? Didn't he throw for close to 300 yards? We know it's in there. What is the point of taking the ball out of the hands of your best player, Saquon Barkley, and forcing the ball down the field when you don't have to? When the game plan calls for that, I have complete faith that Jalen Hurts is going to be able to do it. It might not call for it this week against the Rams, but next week against Detroit, watch him go out there. If it gets to that point, watch him go out there and sling it all over the field, because he's going to probably have to keep up with that Detroit Lions offense, which is really good. But until it's needed, why the hell are we forcing it?
Agreed. We've seen that if you force it, if you continue to throw the ball over and over again, look at Sam Darnold last week. If you have to be forced to throw the ball 40 times a game, you're going to make mistakes. It is in the NFL, it is so easy to constantly make mistakes when you're throwing the football. This team was not built to throw the football 40 times a game. This team was built to throw the football 20, 25, 30 times on a really bad day. And that is it and we're going to dominate with the offensive line and the rushing game. San Diego 29 says 46-20 as a starter is nuts. It is left out of every narrative, every discussion. Nobody talks about this man just wins. And Party on Broad says, I feel like there will always be a negative narrative on Jalen Hurts. It's true. Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni are just stuck with negative narratives until they win a Super Bowl. And even if, say, we win the Super Bowl this year, say we win it next year, there's constantly going to be a negative narrative. I've never seen such a negative narrative towards a quarterback and a head coach like the Philadelphia Eagles constantly seem to be in that discussion, despite being, I think I saw the stat a while ago of the top 5 teams in wins over the last, I think it was 10 years. I'd have to look it up again. And the Eagles are there despite having a couple 500 seasons and a season where they were 4-11. They were right behind teams like the Ravens and the Chiefs. This is a team that just constantly wins and constantly is faced with these negative narratives because our local media sucks. The national media cannot pick on anybody else. They pick on the Dallas Cowboys, but they know the Cowboys aren't going to do anything. So they just pick on them. And when there's news like the Deion Sanders news, they're just going to break the news. They're going to talk about it, but they're never going to speak anything negatively about it. It is just so sad to see that in Philadelphia, there's this constant negative narrative towards Jalen Hurts, who, when he's had to throw the ball, throws the ball. I know that we talked about a couple years ago against Patrick Mahomes, but then when he got called out this season, what did he go and do? He threw for 270 yards. He actually has 4 games out of 15 that he started and completed fully where he threw for 250 plus yards. And I think there's 6 where he threw for over 200, which isn't that bad. We see other players and other quarterbacks. We see other quarterbacks throw for a lot less than 6 200-yard games in a season. So it is kind of sad that way. And San Diego 2019 says people forget what Jalen did in 2022. Recency bias is real. It's definitely true. People forget that. But then people like the Kelly Greenhour who relived 2022 sit there and are like, oh, you're homers. All you guys do are homers. You guys just talk about how Jalen Hurts. Let's go back to the stat. 46-20 as a starter. The win percentage that Jalen Hurts has, the win percentage that Nick Sirianni have are top. Nick Sirianni is top 5 among coaches, and Jalen Hurts is top 10, maybe even top 5 among quarterbacks. It's crazy. When did winning not matter? And we have to remember there is one Super Bowl to win, and over the last 20 years, it's been dominated by the Chiefs and the Patriots, which are 2 dynasties that we are like one-off dynasties. Well, we thought were one-off dynasties that are so damn hard to beat. Why is no other quarterback or coach facing such a scrutiny?
It's because Jalen doesn't look like the prototypical quarterback, and people don't like change. I mean, that's kind of what it comes down to, and it's unfortunate. But like, I get it that there's never been a quarterback that primarily runs or that has the running ability that really has never won a Super Bowl. Now, like Patrick Mahomes is able to run, but he's not like a running quarterback. He's not like Michael Vick, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts. John Elway could run, not like them, obviously. Steve Young could run, not like them. But like, I mean, there's an opportunity. Ravens, if we get a Ravens-Eagles Super Bowl, and I would say this, if the Commanders are able to get into the Super Bowl or whatever, or the CJ Stroud's not really a running quarterback, but like if you get those type of quarterbacks in, like maybe the narrative will start to change. I saw like a list. I forget who it was on Twitter, I think, and I forget which show it was on, but like they ranked the 8 quarterbacks and they had Jalen Hurts as number 8. And if you look at all the quarterbacks,
that's Colin Cowherd that did that.
Oh, he's an idiot. If you look at the quarterbacks ahead of him, all but CJ Stroud, and it's because he hasn't faced CJ Stroud, Jalen Hurts beat them all within the last year, I think. Yeah, within the last year. Patrick Mahomes, he beat last year. Lamar Jackson, he beat this year. Josh Allen, he beat last year. He beat Jaden Daniels this year. And Jaden Daniels won a game that Jalen Hurts got hurt, but 8 plays into the game or 12 plays into the game. Matt Stafford, he's beaten the last 2 years. Maybe he didn't beat Jared Goff though. I don't remember if. Oh yeah, they beat Jared Goff 2 years ago in the year they went to the Super Bowl. And then CJ Stroud they haven't faced, and then he can't beat himself. He has gone out there and proved that he can beat these quarterbacks. And Jalen Hurts is the type of quarterback, it seems, that if he has a bad game, he follows it up with a really good game, or when he is being challenged or talked about, he comes out and puts on a show. So it wouldn't shock me if on Sunday, he comes out and puts on a show against the Rams. And obviously, I think the weather could play a big part in that. He might not have that big of an opportunity. But I also think the weather could be the ultimate it could ultimately level the playing field. And everybody talks about how the Rams are from LA, they're a dome team. Yes, that's true, but I don't know how much that will affect him or affect that team. I mean, Jared Goff has played in the Snow Bowl before. He did it at Lincoln Financial Field when he was with the Lions, and the Eagles did win that game, and Shady went off. But each week provides the different circumstances of how a game needs to be won, and that's how Jalen and this Eagles offense works. They're not going to be one-dimensional. They're going to be able to throw the football. They're going to be able to run the football, and with the offensive line that they have, they can do both at a high quality standard if needed. So when people talk about Jalen, they need to put some respect on his name. Just because he doesn't fit the prototypical quarterback, numbers or the type of the prototypical quarterback style that you think he should be playing, well, grow up. Because he is going to, as he said, he's going to do it his way. Each game's going to look different. If he's got to throw the ball, he'll throw the ball. If they're going to run the ball, he'll run the ball. He doesn't give a crap about stats. And I actually appreciate that about him. And I wish more people did that. A lot of people just go out there and want to throw for 5. And I'll admit, when I'm playing, college football, if I'm playing Madden or whatever, I try to go out there and throw for 500 yards. It's a video game, so it's a little bit different. But you get my point here. Who cares how it's done? And again, I'll say it again. I've said it multiple times this week. Survive and advance. It doesn't matter how you get it done. Just get to the next game and get one step closer to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. And there's definitely a few comments flying around. Ryan says they talked all week about how bad they are because they can't pass, and pretty much everyone picked the Birds to win. It's true. If you look at any of these, ESPN, FS1, wherever you are, if you watch the national media, there's maybe one person who just wants to be that standalone guy who says, "Oh, I'm going to pick the Rams just to be different from the other 4 guys or the other 5 guys on this platform." But almost, I would have to say among the media, 90% are picking the Philadelphia Eagles to win this game. Let's just face it. You can talk down all you want, but at the end of the day, why are you picking the Eagles to win? You're picking the Eagles to win for a reason. Because the defense is good. Jalen Hurts can win in whatever situation he's put in. Saquon Barkley's a machine. This offensive line is an absolute machine. There's just if they're forced to play a certain way and win a certain way, guess what? This Philadelphia Eagles team is going to win that way. If you're in a 6-3 game, guess who's scoring the 6 points? It's probably going to be the Philadelphia Eagles. If you're in a 40-20 game or a 40-37 game, guess who's getting the 40? Probably the Philadelphia Eagles. That's just been the reality of this season when they've had to win in a multitude of different ways, and they've been able to win that way. This is a team that started out 2-2, and there was people talking about Sirianni being fired in the bye week, and Nick Sirianni is here. There was talks about, well, what do you do if Jalen Hurts doesn't win out? What do you do if Jalen Hurts doesn't prove it this year? He has proven it. And it's just, it's crazy to think about all these narratives that have been created, have been talked about, and every narrative has been squashed and beaten by this team throughout the season, especially the defense that that came back as well after the bye week and did some great things. Party on Broad says, I also hate the extremities we live in. As soon as you are critical on someone, you're automatically a hater. And also, as soon as you're complimentary of someone, You're one of these guys who's a homer, and there's no real in between. It's an unfortunate reality that we live in there. Eugene says, and we said this on the last episode, we talked at length about Jalen has done it with a different coordinator for the last 3 years. Jalen has done it with a different coordinator 8 of the last 10 years. 8 of the last 10 years he has done this. So let's remember.
He might have another one next year. You never know.
It's tough to say what's going on in Jerry world, but we'll see what happens there. LJ or Party on Broad says agreed. LJ, when the chips are down, Jalen Hurts pretty much always comes through, avoids the turnovers and adjusts, and no one talks about it. The dude is a straight winner.
And the thing about that, going back to that comment, last year Jalen turned the ball over 20 times, and people bitched and complained because he turned the ball over. This year he has 7 turnovers, and people are bitching and complaining because he's not putting the ball in the tight windows and he's not putting it in harm's way. Well, can you make up your mind? Do you want him to turn the football over? Or do you not want him to turn the football over? Yeah, does he get gun shy? Oh, he has gotten gun shy a couple of times this year, but maybe they've drilled it into him. Look, our team is so good right now. If you don't turn the football over, we win. If they haven't turned the football over much, they are 15-3 right now. 15-3. So, you got to make up your mind. Because I bet you if Jalen goes out there on Sunday and they throw the ball 40 times and he has 4 turnovers and they lose, people are going to be like, why did you throw the ball 40 times with him? Oh, my God. Make up your mind. Do you want him to throw 5 interceptions like Jared Goff or 4 interceptions like Justin Herbert or 3 interceptions like Jordan Love? No, I want him to win. So make up your mind. If you want him to go out there be a gunslinger, expect turnovers. And if you're going to complain that he's turning the ball over, then why? Why are you complaining? You're the one asking him to throw the football all over the place. So make up your mind.
Definitely. Agreed. I agree. Tech coming in here being the ultimate enemy here. If we lose due to pass, I'm going to take a dump on everyone on the air that told me to STFU about pass. And Tech's been in here wanting to see Jalen Hurts throw the ball for 250-plus yards in every game. We respect you, Tech. But if you're an Eagles fan, have you not accepted the reality that you can win without throwing the football for 250, 300-plus yards? We are going up against a team. I was just looking at the stats. We are going up against a team who, through 18 games, we're going to count the wild card weekend, 3 games they've allowed less than 150 rushing yards. 11 games, they have allowed over 200 rushing yards. And the only reason in wildcard weekend that they allowed less than 150 passing yards or rushing yards is because they forced Sam Darnold to throw the ball. They forced the Minnesota Vikings to move away from a rushing attack and throw the ball. And they still gave up 106 rushing yards, even when they had a quarterback throw 41 times. Why are you going to go and play into the Rams game by throwing the ball 30 plus times when their weakness has been, is, and will always currently be this year, their rushing attack? Look at the last look at the last couple of weeks. Arizona Cardinals, 113 rushing yards. Seattle Seahawks, 126. So I mixed it up. I mixed passing yards and rushing yards up. But they're giving up well over 100 rushing yards, every week. 113 against the Cardinals, 126 against the Seahawks, 106 against the Vikings last week. This is their weakness. They are giving up that yardage constantly. The only games that they haven't given up that type of yardage, the Miami Dolphins, which was a surprising one in week 10, the San Francisco 49ers, who've been completely banged up, the New York Jets, who, their offense has been absolutely putrid. LJ would definitely attest to that. There's only been a rare plethora of teams where they haven't been able to put up 100-plus yards rushing. So this is a team that you just rush against. And the weather absolutely speaks to that. You have to continue rushing the ball. This is just a really bad Russian defense, one that has ultimately ranked in the bottom 10, bottom 12 of the league all season.
Yeah, again, I'm not forcing the throw. Why force the throw when it's needed? Like next week, if the Eagles make the NFC Championship game again, and Detroit makes the NFC Championship game, and it's going to be a up and down the field where you're going to have to throw the football all over the yard. I feel like that they'll be able to do that. I felt like last week too that like Jalen didn't get to really practice with Schmitty and AJ. AJ was lumbering. He said he was fine, but his knee wasn't 100% on the fake tush push throw. The way Jalen probably could have threw that a little bit more inside because he threw it outside. But if you remember the touchdown pass in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, when he threw it up, the secondary burst by AJ Brown is what allowed him to go get the ball. And I think Jalen thought that was going to happen, and it didn't. And that maybe that was because of AJ's knee, and he didn't have that acceleration at the end. Hopefully, another week past the injury, Jalen AJ will have that secondary burst that he'll be able to catch up to a ball that's thrown deep if they get into that situation.
And I think it's important to note that week, Jalen Hurts was limited in the first practice, which means he probably wasn't really throwing much or practicing much with the ones. AJ Brown was out for one practice. Devontae Smith was out for one practice, both of them trying to get rest. So at no point in that week leading up did he have both of his guys out there coming off of the concussion protocol, which he missed nearly 3 weeks of football.
Yeah, exactly. So again, more game time this week. They've been teammates for 3 years, but still, like when you don't have that continuity of practice for multiple weeks in a row, it will still take a little bit of time. And hopefully this week we'll see a more precise passing game if that's what the Eagles decide to do.
Ryan says if the passing game is what came up short, chances are the defense played really bad. I mean, I would tend to agree. If you're forced to throw the ball to the only reason that they threw the ball the way they did against Pittsburgh Steelers is because they wanted to go out there and show people.
Not really. The Pittsburgh is good against the run too. That's why
they are good. They are good against the run, but they also wanted to prove everybody wrong. I think AJ Brown wanted to prove his point. Jalen Hurts wanted to prove his point because Jalen Hurts came out after the game and said, "Is that what y'all wanted to see?" So that doesn't go to say that the game plan specifically called for them to pass to the extent that they did, but they passed to the extent that they did because they felt, let's do it. Let's prove it. Party on Broad says, when it comes to the offense, I'm more concerned about Kellen Moore's game plan and the play of the interior line. Both have to be a lot better than Jalen Hurts.
I'm more concerned about Kellen Moore than I am about the O-line. The O-line I still think is good. But Kellen Moore had a virtual interview with Dallas and one with Jacksonville tonight, and then has one with the Saints tomorrow. That's 3 interviews leading into the biggest game of his coaching career because, he didn't really make it this far when he was with Dallas. So, and when you go and prepare for these interviews, you want to know as much information about these teams as possible. Now, I know Sirianni today said that, Kellen's done his job. He's been in every meeting. He's helped with the game plan. He's done his job. He's done what he's needed to do. But still, you got to think. And we saw it in 2022 with Gannon. And now, while the offense did we know that Shane Steichen was interviewing when in 2022? I can't remember. I knew we all knew Gannon was, but I don't remember for sure if we knew if Steichen was interviewing for the coach job. But the offense was still good in that Super Bowl, but defense obviously wasn't. So I don't know how much that's going to affect Kellen Moore. Obviously, I saw somebody put this on Twitter. I want Kellen Moore to coach this game like he's trying to become a head coach, because that means the game plan should be pristine. That means the offense should be clicking on all cylinders, and hopefully that's what we get so that we can defeat the Rams and get to the NFC Championship game. Ryan says, the Eagles are the best team in the league at letting other teams beat themselves, which is the easiest way to win. And that's kind of going back to what I said. Maybe the Eagles told Jalen, look, don't turn the football over. Because if you don't turn the football over, if we're ending every possession in kicks, whether it's a field goal, extra point, or punt, we're going to win because our defense is good and our running game is good, so that when we need to, if we need to move the ball, if we need to milk the clock, we're going to be able to. And that's kind of like, so the Eagles aren't going to have any mistakes on offense, and they're going to, because of the way that, and again, Vic Fangio deserves a bunch of credit. And again, at the beginning of the year, I was wrong because I thought the game has passed him by, but obviously it has not, because the Eagles have the number 1 ranked defense in the NFL. Maybe they're just like, look, we can play a vanilla type of offense right now. Against certain teams, you can do that. Green Bay, they were able to do that because Green Bay's offense was really bad, and they had a bunch of injuries to the receiver position. And maybe they'll be able to do it against the Rams to an extent. But when they get against Detroit, and then if you get to the Super Bowl and it's against the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Bills, when you have to open up the offense, we'll be able to, because we have that potential. We know we've done it before, and we don't have to really throw that out there right now because, again, we're not going to force something that we don't have to force.
No, I definitely agree with you on that. Texas, some interview prep took place during the week that took away time from game prep. And I know that there's some media out there who are saying, like, I think it was John Clark that tweeted, oh, well, the Eagles have been away from the team since like 2:00 this afternoon. There's no way you're telling me Kellen Moore only prepped in this entire week, knowing he had 3 interviews that he only prepped leading up to as soon as he was done practicing with the Philadelphia Eagles. That's not true. That's just not true. You know that isn't true. But he's been prepping it in the evenings. He's been preparing. And I know, LJ, you've been a strong proponent. I've seen it on Twitter. I've seen your comments in group chats that nobody who is in the playoffs should have anybody. What are teams rushing to fill the void for? You cannot sign free agents. You can't do essentially anything.
I think it's because you want to be able to have the opportunity to get the top assistant coaches that are out there. So you want to try to hire somebody so that you can get whatever offensive coordinator you want, whatever defensive coordinator you want, and whatnot. Like, I get it, but I just feel like there has to be the coaches that are in the playoffs should not have to take time away from their week of prep to prep for an interview. It just doesn't make any sense. Now, so the Lions and the Chiefs were on byes last week, so maybe for that week, okay. But I do think there should be a standardized, once the Super Bowl is over, or maybe the week between the conference championship games and the Super Bowl, because it's a 2-week window, then you can do interviews. But when you have a game, the week leading up to the game, no. Because, again, I mentioned I'll go with Kellen Moore because he's our offensive coordinator. 2 today, 1 tomorrow. And while they're virtual, and I think there can only be like a 3-hour max on these, I'm not 100% sure, but like that's 9 hours of interview time that doesn't include the prep time that has gone into these interviews. So that's, as Quentin says, that's prep that's taken place that could potentially be taken away from game prep. Now, I don't think Kellen Moore is taking any time away from the prep like Shane Steichen didn't. Obviously, Gannon probably did. That's a different story. But so I just feel like the NFL needs to fix it. That's all I'm going to say. Just like in college football, they need to figure out this transfer portal thing because it shouldn't be in the middle of bowl games. Maybe wait till after the national championship or whatever. But there has to be something where it's standardized to where it's not taking time away from the playoff team. The coaches aren't going to have to take time away from their game prep week before they go, or because they're going to have an interview a day before the game. It bothers me and it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, we won't get into the transfer portal, but I agree. There's so much financial driven things in that portal that it's absolutely crazy. And I agree with you. If you can't sign you can't even sign free agents into March. You go a month after the Super Bowl before you can even sign free agents. What's wrong with doing the whole coaching thing? But if you really want one of these guys who's coaching a team, what's wrong with you waiting until after they're eliminated and interviewing them then? I don't understand why the whole process in general can't start until after the Super Bowl.
And if you really want to coach on one of these teams that continue that are going to get to the Super Bowl, then you should want to wait. And I get it. There's only 32 jobs in the world, that 32 head coaching spots in the NFL in the world. So you want to have the opportunity to get your name out there and get interviews. But if a team really wants you, if a team really wants Ben Johnson, if a team really wants Aaron Glenn, if a team really wants, Kellen Moore or whoever, then, excuse me, then they'll wait for you. They'll wait for you.
Party on Broad says the NFL coach process sucks, but it's still leagues better than the NCAA transfer portal.
Yeah, that's a different. We'll have to have a different party.
We'll have to have a
different show based on that.
The
transfer portal sucks. All right, let's actually jump into this. Let's jump into this game. Party on Broad says the Rams have some legit up and comers on that D line, and they're going to stunt you to death. Cam Jurgens, Landon Dickerson, Mekhi Becton's communication needs to be on point. Again, our offensive line is worlds better than Minnesota's offensive line. We're not giving up 9 sacks on Sunday. Guarantee it's not happening. We saw what happened. Now, again, it was a regular season game, and I think that this Rams team is better than when we faced the Rams with whatever it was, 7 weeks ago or whatever it is that we played them. But I get it. Jarrett Verse is good. Brandon Fisk is good. Byron Young's good. They are young. They've done a good job with drafting young guys for that defensive line. But our offensive line is also the best offensive line in football. So they're going to win some. Obviously, Verse had that rep against Jordan Mailata where he put him on his ass in the game. But the Eagles Saquon rushed for 255 yards. So you're going to win some or you're going to win a lot, but you're going to lose some. It's going to happen. So you're right. They do need to communicate, and they're going to have to be ready for what Shula, I think, is the defensive coordinator, for what he is going to throw at them. But I have full faith that Jeff Stoutland has these guys ready to go, and they're going to be able to open up lanes for Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, I agree with you on that point. I was speaking to it earlier, mixed stats, but still, this is a 22nd ranked Russian defense. This just isn't a very good Russian defense. It's you weren't forced to have to face Aaron Jones of the Minnesota Vikings Russian offense because it didn't matter, because you were forcing Sam Darnold to throw the ball over and over and over again because you came out, you were the quicker team out of the gate. I do think it's important that the Philadelphia Eagles come out of the gate again very quickly and make some and be the first one. It always is so vitally important to be the one who puts points up on the board. Whether or not it was a fumble doesn't matter against the Packers. The point is they came out, they took what was given to them, and they put points up on the board. And I think that the Eagles need to do that again. They need to continue to put points up on the board and be quick putting them up on the board. One thing that's important to note: this Eagles defense ranks incredibly well in average time for drive and average yards per drive. They actually rank number 1 in average yards per drive given up and number 4 in average time given up per drive. The Los Angeles Rams rank 29th in time of possession per drive and 29th in yards per drive. These are two completely opposite offense and defense. And I think that, that this offense for the Rams is really good, but this defense for the Philadelphia Eagles is extremely good. They are completely polar opposite, and they can definitely stop Matt Stafford, definitely in this weather. I think it was, I saw the stat there, Matt Stafford is 1-8 when it is raining or snowing. That plays so well into this defense already had, some statistical advantages playing to their favor with the LA Rams and how this offense has been playing. Throw in the weather, and it throws in a completely different element against Matthew Stafford and this Los Angeles Rams defense or offense. This is a really good offense, but this is definitely an offense that is not up to par to the way this Philadelphia Eagles defense has been playing.
Yeah. And again, I'm not putting too much stake into the weather thing. I think it's going to be a little overblown. I think that the Rams are going to come out prepared for it and play better in it than people are anticipating. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but I don't want that to. I don't want to have to use that as an excuse or us or the Rams fans use that. I just don't want the weather to be an excuse maker, whatever. I'm going into this game. Party on Broad said something, and given the ref crew, what are the chances the Rams come out and do a couple of cheap shots at CJGJ and Jalen Carter? I'm legit worried these two are keeping their cool. So it's the same ref crew that threw CJGJ out of the Washington game. I actually don't think – I'm not worried about Chauncey Gardner-Johnson as much as I would be worried about Jalen Carter, because Gardner-Johnson's been in the league. He's a pro. Like, I think that it happened to him once. And I'm not going to say that he'll be completely fine, but I do think that he's going to be more able to keep us cool than Jalen Carter. Like, I do think Jalen Carter might be a little bit of a hothead, but I like that in him. I will not lie. I like that in Jalen Carter, and especially the position that he plays. You kind of have to be a little crazy playing that defensive tackle to be double and triple teamed every play. Was it last week he played close to 90% of the snaps or whatever it was? He's always on the field too. His energy is amazing, especially for the position that he plays. He definitely has a chance to be the best defensive tackle in football over the next 2 years, if not next year. He's that good. So we'll see what happens, but I can guarantee you that Nick Sirianni is drilling it into these guys. Be smart. Play within the limits, like be aggressive and play hard and do what you got to do, but do it within the confines of the game. Don't go above and beyond. That's going to get you kicked out, because especially for CJGJ, the last time the Eagles lost the game, he got kicked out of that game, and him not being on the field was a big thing because CJ McCollum stinks.
Yeah, I mean, the NFL didn't send a letter out talking about unsportsmanlike conduct for no reason. They definitely don't want to.
We also don't know what he said. I really wish we would, but we're never going to.
No, we don't know what he said. And it doesn't matter at the end of the day, because whatever he said was unsportsmanlike in the eyes of the referees. And that's all that matters at the end of the day. Whatever we see on a replay, whatever we see in the video doesn't matter. It's all about the refs and what the refs believe. So it's important in this circumstance to know, if you think it's unsportsmanlike, if you think a ref isn't going to like it, Jalen Carter and CJGJ have to just not react to it. They just can't go there. But I agree.
Tristan McCollum. Wow. I can't believe I forgot. Why did I get CJ McCollum?
LJ's thinking about basketball. Just the way we knew he would.
College basketball is 1,000 times better than the NBA. The NBA is the worst league, professional sports league.
But yeah, I'm not really worried about. I mean, I think the reason that Jalen Carter gets frustrated is definitely because you look back at the end of games and you see how much he's double teamed, how much he's triple teamed, how much teams get away with things against him, and it's crazy. Whereas CJGJ, he just has to keep his cool. He has to keep his head on. He's got to keep his head on, and he's got to be just, I get it. The way he is, he trash talks, he bashes, but he has to know when he's made a comment enough to back away and hope that there's a reaction from the other team. Because sometimes you can see him replays. He goes. And you could see in that moment when they threw him when they gave the first penalty in the game, and then when they threw him, when he got tossed in that Commanders game, we still don't know what happened. But before that first one, when you look at the replay, you can tell like he probably needed to back off. He probably had made one too many comments and should have backed off. But still, to the same point, you never give it to the guy who's making the comments. It's always the one who shoves a hand in the face, who pushes a guy out of the way. Yeah, that is ultimately up to the refs.
Yeah, that was crazy. Party on Bra says Stafford is number 2 in passing yards with pre-snap motion, and the Birds are number 1 defense against pre-snap motion. This is a huge Cooper DeJean game. In that game 7 or so weeks ago, Cooper DeJean did a great job against Cooper Kupp. And it was pretty much Puka Nacua that kind of killed us a little bit in the passing game. So, not only will it be a big Cooper DeJean game, Quinyon Mitchell, Darius Slay, you know that Sean McVay, and also, Sean McVay is going to probably try to get Kyron Williams, Tyler Higbee lined up against Oren Burks or Jeremiah Trotter Jr., whoever's going to be playing for Nakobe Dean. And I think the Nakobe Dean loss is going to be huge for the Eagles for that fact, because Nakobe Dean was playing such good football, and we'll notice a drop off from Nakobe Dean to Oren Burks / Trotter. And I'm hoping not having Nakobe Dean next to him won't affect Zach Bond, because I said it, like the pairing of Zach Bond and Nakobe Dean has been really good for this team. So we'll see how Bond is without him. I mean, I still expect him to be all-pro Zach Bond, but Nakobe, just the way he was able to play this year, it's going to be a huge loss for them. And you saw what the Packers did. The Packers started getting the ball to Josh Jacobs out of the backfield. Kyron Williams, Tyler Higbee this week, Jahmyr Gibbs next week, potentially. Like, it's going to be key for Burks and or Trotter to step up huge, especially with, McVay is really good with his scheming and game planning. So he's going to do everything he can to get one of those two linebackers lined up against Kyron Williams, Higbee, maybe even a receiver in the slot. And that is going to be a mismatch in favor of the Rams.
Yeah, and I know that Higbee was throwing up blood at the end of the game and went to the hospital, and then he's going to play, but there could be something going on there that we don't know about. But, I mean, at the end of the day, Oren Burks is horrible in coverage. Like, if we look back to last year in the San Francisco game when he was thrust into a starting role, he gave up 9 of 9 targets. I think over the last 3 weeks in Philadelphia, he's given up 12 of 12 targets, and that is all against completely banged up and just slaughtered teams. Like, you're talking about the Giants, you're talking about the Cowboys, you're talking about the Packers, that he is just constantly given hemorrhaging targets, receptions, and yards to. So, I mean, I would personally like to see Jeremiah Trotter, because at the end of the day, next year you're starting. So I mean, at the end of the day, Oren Burks is going to be 30. He's 30 going on 30 years old. I think his birthday's coming up in 3 or 4 days. I think it's on the day of the game. The guy's going to be 30 years old. He should be your last resort for bringing back in free agency. You got 13 or 14 free agents. He should be the last resort that you bring back. Jeremiah Trotter gives you an opportunity to figure out what you got in-house and if this is going to be something that's going to work for the future. Because this same person is going to be Jeremiah Trotter could be started next year for the first 4+ games. It is highly dependent. Party on Broad.
Do you want to start Nick Morrow instead?
God no. He had a few good games, and then remember, we talked about him. He just fell off the face of the earth. Party on Broad. Higbee versus Burks. Trot Jr. is a little scary. I need Blankenship to pull a B-Doc on Sunday and get Higbee out of the game. Sorry, not sorry. I mean, you're talking to the wrong group. I mean, I don't hate Blankenship to the level of LJ, but I mean, you're talking to the wrong podcast if you think that we believe in Reed Blankenship to pull up Brian Dawkins of all people on Sunday.
He means by just going out there and smoking them like Doc did against Vic.
Agreed.
20 years ago.
But I don't know. I don't know if we have the faith in Reed Blankenship to do that type of stuff and to do it effectively. I don't know. But
I do like to win it for Nakobe thing. It would be awesome if in 3 weeks, whatever it is, that you go out if somebody's carrying Nakobe's jersey and somebody's carrying Brandon Graham jersey, like Lane Johnson did for Jason Peters in the 2017 Super Bowl. That would be pretty dope.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I definitely have faith in Trotter Jr. over Burks. When you look at Burks in coverage, it's like you're going to go after Burks 100 times out of 100 when he's on the field. If Kupp's in the area, if Higbee's in the area, you're going after Burks. He has shown that he has a major weakness in coverage, and missed tackles are crazy. Like, I looked at it, he has 7 missed tackles on special teams. He has 7 missed tackles in the last 3 weeks on defense also. Like, that's 14 missed tackles. But how many people on special teams have 7 missed tackles? Like, that is crazy. Oren Burks is just not meant to be out there. I'd give the opportunity to Trot Jr. for sure.
And for those that are asking the Eagles to throw the ball a little bit more, I mean, one of their corners, Kilo Witherspoon, is questionable. He may not play. So there may be an opportunity. Again, I'm not going away from the run game because I think with the weather and just they're such a good running team and the Rams aren't that great against the run, that excuse me, I would still focus on that. But you never know. Like, again, you have 2 all-pro type of receivers. You have Dallas Goedert, who is really good. Saquon out the backfield. There could be opportunities there, and I believe that Jalen will be able to take advantage of that. But I'm not going out of the way to throw the ball. If the running game is working, I'm going to keep handing the ball off. But if, just like in the Pittsburgh game, if the Rams are able to stuff Saquon, and they need to go to the throw, they need to go to the passing game, it wouldn't shock me to see that. But I also think that the weather could potentially dictate that.
Witherspoon being there would be interesting. Pretty sure he's the guy to cover AJ Brown. I did see that he is likely to suit up. As of 31 minutes ago, he is likely to suit up, but of course he would still be banged up. So hopefully, but AJ Brown's banged up. We know that AJ Brown's definitely not 100%. You could rest him all week, and I don't think it would matter. There's something with AJ Brown that requires a lot more than 1 or 2 weeks rest. AJ Brown definitely needs some time off. Ewing 609. Hey, welcome aboard, my friend. So JD says Coop, and then JD also says no Blankenship slander. Well, you might be on the wrong podcast for that.
All right, so going to what Quentin says, Brady and Belichick like throwing in the snow because DBs can't change the direction well, and the offensive players know where they're going. So, I mean, and I also think it depends on the type of snow. Like, I mean, the Lynx field is heated underneath, so you don't think that, it's going to be like a frozen tundra icy field out there. But again, we'll see. Like in that game in the Snow Bowl, the Eagles really couldn't pass the ball that well, but Shady, like, I don't know how he was, as his Twitter handle, cutting on the dime the way he was in that snow. And it was funny. What's his name said, Saquon said today, he said he's going to call Shady and figure out, like, dude, how did you do that? Because Shady did it not only here, and I think he did it in the game with the Bills. He was so good in the snow. So, yeah, we'll see. All right.
JD says Blankenship picked this game for you. I hope. Listen, we don't wish ill will on any of these players. We just expect a little more out of them. But a pick from Reed Blankenship would be amazing. We'd love it. Absolutely.
All right. Let's get to our offensive player of the game, defensive player of the game, a key or two to the game, and then we'll do predictions. I have mine written down, so I can't change it. So we'll see if we have the same score, which has happened a time or two. All right, Connor, offensive, defensive player of the game.
I mean, I'm going with the easy one. I'm going with Saquon Barkley. No matter what, whether it is a cold, freezing, we know it's going to be a freezing cold game. As of right now, it is the coldest day in the last 2 years for Philadelphia, or there's a very good high chance it's going to be what the coldest is.
No, that's going to be Tuesday and Wednesday. It's going to be single digits. Tuesday, the low is 1 degree. Wednesday, the low is 4 degrees, and Thursday's the low is 6 degrees. Next week's going to suck, just saying.
But we know that whether it's cold, whether it's snow, it starts to hurt to take the hits from a guy like Saquon Barkley over and over again. We know Saquon Barkley is getting 20-plus carries in this game. It doesn't even matter. If there's an over-under and it's anywhere close to 20, you take that over because Saquon Barkley is going to get it. I'd love to pick a wide receiver here, but we know that we're going to stick with that run game. We're going to stick with something that works, and we're going to stick with something that is completely counter to what the LA Rams are able to even stop. So I'm going with Saquon Barkley as my player to watch on the offensive side of the ball. Kind of cheap, kind of, the easy pick, but I'm taking it. On the defensive side of the ball, I took Nolan Smith last time, and he had a historic game, but I'm going to go with Kenyon Mitchell. Someone's got to stop Puka Nacua. Kenyon Mitchell, he broke the plane finally of, he needed that interception. He got that interception. Here we go. It's time. I'm going with Kenyon Mitchell here, and I was debating Kenyon Mitchell or CJ Gardner-Johnson. It was one or the other, but I'm going with Kenyon Mitchell here because he's going to be stuck on Puka Nacua, I think, most of the night. So here we go. Kenyon Mitchell for another pick, at least one more pick. We know that in the cold weather, I know that you discount it a little bit, LJ, but a 1-8 record in snow or rain is nothing to scoff at with Matthew Stafford. So I'm definitely going with that. As for keys to the game, I mean, don't give up on the run game. Don't worry about the media said. Don't worry about what anybody else said. Do what you know is going to work for you. Do what you know is going to win. If you just get 100, 150 passing yards, if you just throw the ball 20, 25 times and you only complete, 15, 16 passes, that's fine. It doesn't even matter. Who cares what anybody else is saying? Do what you know is going to win you the game. And what has won us the game is this offensive line and Saquon Barkley. And then from the defensive perspective, I mean, pressure's Stafford. You already got the weather in your favor. Continue to get some pressure on Matthew Stafford. Make him make mistakes. Don't give him any type of time. The Minnesota Vikings were able to give him – actually, the Minnesota Vikings kind of gave in to just quick passes. Give the defensive line some time to get home, get to Matthew Stafford. All they need is a second or two. So this is going to be one of those perspectives where it's going to be Kenyon Mitchell and Darius Slay and Cooper DeJean have to play tough up front for the first 1 to 2 seconds. And then from there, who knows what can happen. But that Matthew Stafford can make mistakes. So it's all about getting pressure. And, Vic Fangio, given the cornerbacks, let them do what they can possibly do best, which is playing tough against these wide receivers, and then not giving Matthew Stafford any time to make those quick throws. Because in the early going in that game, and as the game continued to go on, Matthew Stafford was able to make those quick hitting passes. He had that easy first look, second look, and he knew he was throwing to one of those guys. Don't give him that opportunity.
All right, so offensively, I'm going with the offensive line, especially after what the Rams did against the Vikings with the 9 sacks. So I don't foresee that happening. Still, you got to go out there and play mano a mano. So I'm going with them. And again, Jared Verse had that one play against Jordan Mailata in the game. And I know Mailata is going to want some type of revenge for something like that. And we didn't even talk about it. What Jared Verse said about Philly fans, boy, he opened up a can of worms. It was already going to be a rabid crowd. It's going to be even worse for him. And he's only like 2 hours away from Philly, or he grew up 2 hours away from Philly. So he should know better than to say that. He's in for a rude awakening. And all that happened in LA on a road game. Now you're coming to Philly where it's going to be nothing but Philly fans. Good luck, bro.
He better get a sack. That's all I got to say. If you're going to talk that type of trash, you better get at least a sack or two. If not, you're non-existent, and then you're just going to be Eagles fans are going to be in your DMs. He did have a touchdown
last week. Good for him, but yeah. And he's probably going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year, but yeah, whatever. He made a mistake. He's going to hear it all game long.
And that's only because Kenyon Mitchell didn't get thrown to. That's all. For Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Stupid media that votes for or whoever votes for these don't understand
stats. It's all about them stats.
And on the defensive side of the ball, I'm going to go Coop because Coop is going to have to go up against Cooper Kupp. So I think that the Cooper versus Cooper matchup is going to be key, and he did a really good job against Coop in the first game. And Kupp's going to want to come out there and try to school the rookie just like Adam Thielen did. So we'll see how he's able to do that. And obviously Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Darius Slay, if they're able to hold up in coverage, that could help the front four to get after Stafford. And Stafford is a gunslinger, so he's going to be prone to throw you one. Keys to the game, obviously protect the football if you're Jalen Hurts, and just keep running it down their throats, and don't give up the big play on the defensive side of the ball, which the Eagles typically don't do. So just be smart with the football, and don't give easy lanes or easy passes to Stafford. All right, prediction time. Who you got, Connor?
I don't know if it'll be to the tune of 37-20 like last time. I am going 31-24 for the Eagles.
Okay. So the Rams have given up in games that they've actually tried, because week 18 they didn't. They've given up like 8 points a game over the last 5 weeks or so, including the playoffs. So they've been, really good. So it's a different challenge this week than it was when they last faced the Rams. So it's going to be close, I think. I think this is a game where you may not see much field goal kicking, and I know a lot of people have issues with, or I don't want to say issues, but aren't quite confident with Jake Elliott. But like, he missed the one extra point last week, but he made 2 field goals in the fourth quarter, which helped like the Eagles extend their lead. So we'll see what happens this week. Obviously, weather's going to be dependent upon, and circumstances will be dependent upon how much they kick. I'm going 24-14 Eagles. I actually don't think it's going to be that high scoring of a game, especially, again, weather, if it's going to snow a lot. The Eagles are going to play probably keep it to a ball control game, and this is going to be a game where the Eagles this is, again, the type of game that the Eagles can run the football, play keep away, hold on to the ball, win time of possession, and be able to win the game. And next week's a game where they might have to – it's going to be bombs away. But this week you don't have to go bombs away. Each game, each opponent determines the circumstances. Just like Jalen said, I'll win a game the way I need to win a game. And this week, maybe we'll run the football. So I'm going 24-14 Eagles.
Definitely important to note those games, the 49ers, the Jets, the Cardinals, and Minnesota. Sam Darnold, I think, is overrated. We kind of talked about it before the game. The guy's going to get – my one thing on Sam Darnold, you pay him $35-40 million a year, that's fine. But
you get what you pay for.
You get what you pay for. This guy, exactly. Everyone's like, oh, he's probably going to get like a little bit better than the Baker Mayfield contract because of inflation and stuff. Baker Mayfield will get you to the playoffs and an early exit. Sam Darnold, get you to playoffs, early exit. Prime example.
Dak Prescott will not get you to playoffs as the highest paid player in the NFL. Just saying.
Ryan
Doherty says 31-17, and that's with a garbage time touchdown by LA. Well,
and JD says big pressure from the line all game. I hope so. God damn.
I want a blowout game too, so like that we're not going to have heart palpitations, but I think it's going to be close.
And then Tech, get out of here. Bond for player of the game. Okay, McKee,
yeah, I saw that, and it gave me an aneurysm.
Get out of here.
That gave me an aneurysm.
It is Jalen Hurts. Don't worry about that.
McKee's going to be the emergency quarterback. If it gets to McKee, there's a big, big problem. Just saying. And it's Baun, B-A-U-N. Just saying. Sorry. I'm a stickler for spelling sometimes.
And Party on Broad says, I'll say you couldn't pay me enough money to go to the link in a snowstorm. The traffic and everything is going to be god-awful. LMAO.
Traffic sucks down in the sports complex when it's perfect weather. So, yeah, you're right. When it's snowing.
Listen, I would go there. I would be there, man. I want to be there. I want to get their game. So we'll see next year. Prayers up that I get there for next year.
Yeah. Thank you all for tuning into the divisional playoff edition of the Kelly Green Hour. As always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LJHurrell54. And follow the Eagles Pin Pull Network on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and wherever you get your podcasts at Eagles Pin Pull Network. Before we go up, Show Up says Eagles completely a better team. 35-17 Eagles. Again, I will love a blowout so that I'm not having heart palpitations at the end. Thank you all for tuning in to the Kelly Green. We've been here for an hour, man. We just arrived. You're gonna have to
just rewatch. You're good. Yeah. You're good.
We'll be back on Monday after the game. Hopefully, we're here with a victory in hour, getting ready for the NFC Championship game. For Connor, I'm LJ. Thank you for tuning in to the Kelly Green Hour.